Imagine your life at peak impact, right? You got like everything you dreamed of. You're there. I want you to draw your impact at that moment.
Pen's broken.
That's great.
So I've
Got it?
got peak impact, baby.
All right. Show it to me and describe it.
So it's just stick figures. It's just me, my future imaginary children,
Yeah.
and yeah. When I think of peak impact, it would rarely be about myself. It would just be like everyone else around me.
All right. And why does that resonate with you?
Um, I mean, it's just kind of how my brain's always worked. Like, I don't know. Like it's always kind of an ecosystem mindset for the most part. Like being happy in isolation isn't really isn't really all that it is cracked up to be.
Like, do you have experience in that? Like,
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've lived all over the world in a bunch of different countries, so I know what it's like to go from living in a place where you know everyone, moving somewhere else, and you completely start over and have to like rebuild friendships and like create your own like mini family again and stuff. Um, so I think that once you've had that experience, at least for me, it really made it clear. Um, yeah, what peak performance or happiness or anything like that would look like.
well, talk me through. Like, what was the moment that you were like, I need to go travel the world, right? And then,
Um, so I'd never left the country, the U.S., until I was like 2 days after I graduated college. So I was
okay,
like 22, and I went to Uganda for a couple of weeks, and it kind of really just opened my mind. I was like, okay, I need to see more of the world. So I put a plan together, and I paid off like all my debt from school, and saved up a chunk of change. And then when I was 24, I left. And so I was in like Central and South America for a year. I was in Germany for 5 years, and then I was in Asia for like half a year. Um,
uh,
and did a lot of traveling like during that time period. But it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Like it wasn't anything I'd like planned as a kid or anything like that. I didn't have like a crazy travel bug as a teenager. It was just in my early 20s, and it just as soon as I saw the first other country, I was like, okay, I need to see more and more and more. And yeah, it was an absolute blast.
that's awesome, bro. And what were you doing there? Like, you know, what was your MO? Like, I'm dropping in, and then what do you do next?
Well, my original plan was to move to Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Okay,
Like I feel like for a lot of people, before you go and do something really different, you have to like make up a plan that's not going to happen.
okay,
But just so your brain can be okay, like stepping into a huge unknown where you don't have any plans.
I like that. Yeah.
And so I was in Central America and I was learning Spanish. So that was like a huge reason why I left. I was like, all right, I
Mm.
really want to learn Spanish. And so I did like 3 months of an immersion school in Guatemala, and then just ended up making friends and traveling around Mexico and Central America. Um, and then met my ex girlfriend, and then moved to Germany. And
He was German.
yeah, she was German.
Okay,
And yeah, it just kind of like kickstarted all of that. Um,
that's great.
yeah, it was a good adventure.
So 5 years. I'm assuming the relationship doesn't work out.
No, no, it didn't.
Okay, and then you're like, I gotta go somewhere else. You go to Asia for half a
hmm
year, and then what was the moment where you were like going back home?
Yeah, so I knew that I was going to go back home. So I left Germany in like September of 2022.
Okay.
I still left all of my stuff there. I just like my visa was up,
Mm.
and I was actually expired by like a month or something. I was like, I just have to go. So
Yeah.
I just like told all my friends, all right, I'm leaving in 6 days. I bought my plane ticket. I'm gone in 6 days. And so I go to Asia, and then while I was there, I went to India first, and I was there for like 2 or 3 months. And while I was there, I had kind of like decided, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna come back home. I think I'm gonna go to Texas again. And so I came back to Texas in like January 2023, and then I was like, all right, I've no idea what I'm going to do. I was still like doing technical writing stuff remotely, um, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go back to Germany and get all my stuff, and kind of like actually close out and not have stuff in a random basement halfway across the world. And I had a friend who had their 30th birthday party in Portugal. She was German, and while I was there, I had the idea. I was like, I should start DOS filter. Um,
Mm.
and so I was like, okay, awesome. I'll go to Berlin. I'll get all my stuff, and then I'll come back and get this business rolling. Um,
So at the party, what happened at the party? Like,
so I was like at this party. We like had this awesome house rented in northern Portugal, and we like surfing every morning. It was just like 10 of my best friends from Germany, and like while I was there, I didn't. The idea actually came when I was in Spain. So I go to Spain right after Portugal. I'm visiting a friend that I had also met in Central America, um, 7, 8 years before, and we're literally sitting there, like smoking a joint, using an activated carbon filter. And I was like, "Oh, let's go get some." And he was like, "Oh, you can't buy them in Spain." I was like, "What do you mean you can't buy them in Spain?" He was like, "Oh, we'll have to like order them off the internet or something." And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, like right then. Ultimate clarity. I was like, okay, I've been to every country that has legal weed besides South Africa and Canada, um, and no one has these filters. Um, no one
and are they common? Like,
in Germany.
in
So,
Germany.
so the original technology was invented by a German company called ActiTube in like 2000 or 2001. And my design is like a little bit different than theirs. I use a different type of charcoal and different ceramic tip design, like the caps on the end. But it just hit me like perfect clarity. I was like, oh my gosh, because I didn't know what I was going to do when I came back to Texas. I had like an oil and gas career when I first graduated college. I was like, I don't really want to go back and do that. Um, and so it just was like, it's still just as clear then as it is now, and that it's almost a year later. Um,
And you had
this
some with you when you went to Spain? That's how you
uh-uh.
were like, no.
I didn't have any, so my buddy had some,
Okay.
and we were just sitting there, and I had used them for like years before, like in
Mm,
Berlin, for example. Like if anyone rolled up something and you just used a paper crutch and you didn't have
mm,
a nice filter on the end, everyone would be like, "What the hell are you doing? Like,
mm.
get this get this hobo thing out of here."
Yeah.
And so I just had that experience again in Spain. Like, oh my gosh, it's terrible not to have one of these tips. Um, so I need to start a company that makes them. And
And when was this? When did you start?
so I first had the idea. In this was July of 2023.
Okay.
Um, I got like the company incorporated in like August and September, because I didn't get back to Texas until like the last weekend of August,
Okay.
um, and had to like find suppliers and do some designs and stuff and figure out
Mm.
what type of filter I would want and sizes and all that stuff. And I've learned so much about
Yeah.
manufacturing since then. It takes forever, and there's so many constraints in the process. Like I didn't actually get the product until um, when was it? It was the first week of May of this year.
Wow.
Um,
And when did you put your order in?
I put my order in. This is a crazy story. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize Chinese New Year was a thing. Like complete ignorance.
Yeah.
I had no idea Chinese New Year's was a thing. So I'm in contact with suppliers by like um, December of 2023, and then
Okay.
I placed my order in January, and then radio silence. Like I've sent in deposits for thousands of dollars, and no one's responding, and I'm just like freaking out for basically the whole month of February. and then finally at the end of that month get some responses. Oh, hey, your order will be processed in a few months, but we just shut down for the month of February, so that's why no one's responded.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, so I got the product at the beginning of February. Then I got the papers, the first round of the papers, like in middle of May of this year.
Okay.
Um, so it's crazy. I feel like I've finally just been starting to rock and roll by about like June. Um, so even though the whole process has been like about a year, um, it's I've only had product to sell for a couple of months so far.
Yeah, and it's doing well. Like you keep reposting testimonials, and like
Yeah,
people are
dude.
loving.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's really I really feel like the momentum is really starting to grow, especially online, and it's just one of those things. Like as soon as you like try it, you just know. Um,
Yeah,
but it's like one of those products. It's very difficult to explain to people. Um, like the amount of even in person, like doing the B2B side, going into shops and stuff, the amount of people that have been like, oh, like Murph, your filter's no different than like this piece of paper, and they like pull out the like raw pack
mm,
of crutches. It's like, no,
yeah,
dude, that's just paper. It's not a filter. Um,
yeah.
and so it's just one of those things. Once you try it, you really know, because it's just a really nice product. It just
And
improves the smoking experience a lot.
I think the explanation part is going to be easy, to be completely honest. But I just want to know what I'm playing with really.
Mm-hmm.
Is Are you married to the name Das Filter, or
Um,
and the
like
branding and the whole thing, or not?
like yes and no. Like I really like the whole concept of DOS. Um
Because you can
and
be
I
like
think that
Das good and Das and stuff. Yeah.
exactly. And I
Uh-huh.
think DOS plays really well. But when I originally like first started and like made all the online profiles and stuff like that, I didn't have any plans to make papers. I didn't have any plans to make cones. Um and so like now I'm to the point where it's like, okay, DOS really feels like the overarching name and theme, and then like everything else is like a subcategory. It's DOS filters, it's DOS papers, it's DOS cones. Um, if that kind of makes some sense.
Yeah. And what part of Texas are you from again? Austin?
So I'm originally from Crawford, Texas. So
Okay.
it's like a tiny little town of like 700 people. Um, it's like right off of Interstate 35. It's in between Austin and Dallas.
Okay.
So it's like right kind of in the middle, like kind of by not too far from Waco, if you've ever heard of Waco before.
Yeah. No, I've been to Austin and what's it called? Bastrop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I need to visit Texas more. Like I hear a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
But I like it. I got like kind of the lay of the land. So let's say going back to the impact thing, right? So you build this ecosystem, you got kids, you're kind of like a pillow in the community, let's say, and paraphernalia or like, the marijuana, industry, people are like, hey, this guy's an innovator. He brought something to America. I'm imagining luxury because it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a luxury product. So I'm imagining us going down the luxury path a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But that's later. Like right now, I just want to get the download. But let's say you're there, right? Everybody who is a connoisseur is like, you're not smoking with us, you're an idiot, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
At that point in time, uh, what is like the best opportunity that can come knocking at your door? Like, what would excite you? Like, if someone was to call your phone, like, who would that be? What would be super exciting for you?
Well, like the main end goal, and it will take almost to get to that point to get there, is I want to build a factory. Um, so I want to like have my own facility in Texas that makes papers, that makes cones, and that makes filters. Um, because at the moment, even with my like small product offerings, like I'm involved with a handful of different suppliers in a handful of different countries, um, and I want to bring all that in under one roof and
Okay.
do it all in Texas.
But why
And to get to
papers and cones? Isn't that like easy to get made in America papers and cones?
No, 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 not at all. And that's what's so crazy. So like the cones, for example, there's like those machines that make those cost $1 million, and they're not even fully automated.
Wow.
They're not, and that's what's so wild. And so, for example, you can buy a joint rolling machine where you put in cones and it can
Mhm.
roll like 1,400 finished joints an hour. These machines exist, and those machines only cost $250,000. And
But
so
you're
it's
filling it with something, so like the integrity is easier than an empty cone.
exactly, so it's like an integrity issue, and it's just like the whole design of the machine. Like you can fit like the actual joint rolling machine in a much smaller space than like the cone making machine. Um, and the same with like with the filter equipment and stuff as well. That takes up quite a bit more room and also more expensive than like a finished joint product. But I kind of want to stay away. Like I don't, especially at this point, and why I decided to stick on the paraphernalia side is the regulation is so much less, and the and your startup costs, like the licensing to like sell marijuana and all that kind of stuff is just really really crazy. And
No,
then you
I
can't
like the lane you're in is a good lane. I
right.
think so.
It, mm-hmm. Um, and so yeah, dude, that's like that would be the phone call I would be so happy to get three
Yeah,
five
like
years
hey,
from now.
we got the financing. Let's
We
go.
got exactly.
I love it.
We've got $3 million. We're ready to invest in DOS. Let's build DOS Factory.
I like it. That's fact. Okay, let's say you got the factory. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Factory's done. What's
Mm-hmm.
like the next big opportunity like after that?
The next big opportunity is to start white labeling everything. Um, and then so I would want to, at that point, DOS brand is really built up. We're a multinational company. We're selling in 20 to 30 different countries. And at that point, I would love to, yeah, just make my awesome papers and filters for everyone. Um,
So like
so that
raw is like, hey, we want raw filters manufactured as
exactly.
does. All right.
We want raw. We're going to use Murph's factory DOS to make activated carbon filters, OCB for them to make their American papers with me. All the like big major brands.
Okay.
So that way they can put American made on their stuff and get it actually made here. For example, like all of raw is made in Spain.
Okay.
Um, every single raw product is made there.
I like it. In terms of you and your like your life, right? What is your proudest moment?
Um, my probably one of my proudest moments is going to German immigration. Probably my third year there, completely by myself, um, and being able to handle everything. That was like that was a crazy like proud moment. Like walking in, being super confident, being like, "You're not gonna fuck with me."
Mhm.
Like I know the law, I
Mhm.
speak the language. That was an immense feeling of pride because like I don't know, immigration is just a crazy process in every country. Like the first time I ever went to the immigration office, the Ausländerbehörde in Berlin,
Mhm.
the my immigration officer is just like, you should go home. Like first thing he says before like he looks at any of my paperwork, it was just like me and my ex-girlfriend. He wouldn't speak in English even though he spoke English. He was like, you should just go home. Like don't even try. I don't
Get a
even want to
lawyer.
look at your paperwork. Just get out of here. And so from like that point to being able to handle all that by myself, like yeah, that was a big come up.
I love it. And what is it like a second biggest
um
like
Probably second biggest was like paying off all my student debt. Like when I graduated college I had like $50,000 in debt.
Mhm.
And then I paid it all off in 18 months. um and that just like level of freedom was unreal, being like, all right, I'm completely debt free, I can really start saving money and like be able to take some crazy risks, because I never would have been able to travel the world and go to all these countries and learn all these other languages and meet all these cool people or start all these businesses that didn't work, and yeah, none of that would have been possible.
What are some of the businesses that didn't work?
Oh my gosh, I've had so many. So
Yeah,
I had
the
I had an
funniest one.
I had an eco hostel in Guatemala, in
Okay.
a little town called San Pedro de Laguna, and it was called Casa Felipe. It had 28 beds, um, 6 private rooms, and 2 dorms. And so I meet this guy who owns it, Juan, and he needed to like raise money to do like a huge restoration project. Like we needed to put a new roof on multiple buildings. We like built a water filtration system, using volcanic rocks and plants. Like reuse the hand washing water and shower water. Installed solar panels, all this different stuff, and I never made one single penny off of
Oh,
this.
it was just a great idea.
Just a great idea. It just
Uh-huh.
a business that didn't make much money. Hostels are really difficult. Hotels in general, anything that has to do with beds,
Yeah.
and just certain things were completely out of my control. So this was 2017.
Mm.
It was like fully open and rolling in like 2018. In Guatemala, they have only about 4 months of high tourism season. It's January through the end of April, and so we had 18. This was like a major feeder town at one point in time for Israeli tourism.
Mm.
They had like
Interesting.
back then these
That's
crazy Facebook groups, and as soon as you finish like your military service, you go and travel the world, and there would be like
mm.
thousands of them that would go through there. Um, they just kind of like changed their route, um, and then a volcano erupted in a feeder town called Antigua, which is like one of the
Mm.
main tourism towns in Guatemala, and that made international headlines, and that plummeted the entire tourism rate of
Oh,
Guatemala by 50%.
wow.
Um, and in 2020, COVID.
Hmm.
So it was it was a
Bad luck after bad luck. Yeah,
bad luck after bad luck.
I love it. And if you're gonna think about like, what's your story?
My story. That's a good question. Like I would say I'm just like a small town Texas kid that got the opportunity to like see the world. Um, I'm like I'm extremely curious. Like my curiosity is probably one of my greatest strengths and my greatest weaknesses at the same time. Um, and I don't know. I have a crazy drive. Like I
But what
being told
animates
no.
all of this? Like what is
I've just
that curiosity, right? Like what is the question you're trying to answer? Like what is
what's the meaning of life was a big question for a long time. I don't have that much angst about that question anymore, nor do I really think about it. Like I think the meaning of life is like it's the shit you do every day. Like that's the meaning. Um, like it life doesn't make sense. The old Steve Jobs quote, like life doesn't make sense looking forward. It only makes
Mm,
sense looking backwards.
mm,
And so the only way to like be proud of what you're looking at backwards is to do the stuff every day.
mm. So that was kind of what was animating you before, right? You were like, what is this all about? What are all these people? What is it, like life? Like you're saying, like
Mm-hmm.
all this living that's happening around me. What is all of that? And you went and found out that, oh, life is about life. Okay. The meaning was hidden right in the word, right? And
Yeah.
and you kind of you found that piece. You're like, great, let me just do that then, and
Mm-hmm.
and then what was that moment? Like, can you remember that moment? Like when it hit you, you were like, oh, wait a minute.
Um, no, like I wouldn't say for that one, like there's like a very clear moment where it just like kind of changed.
Mm,
It was something that for sure happened like over a series of weeks. Like
mm,
I would say everyone probably has this experience in their life where you know you you're like on a mission, you're doing stuff every day, and like you have these like little moments of clarity, but like the whole like aha, everything
mm.
makes sense never comes.
Yeah,
Or if
yeah,
it
of course. But there's inflection points, right? There's like
right.
an event that triggers the chain, right,
Uh-huh.
of gradual realization or whatever, right? And it
Hmm.
was there like was you ending the relationship with your ex-girlfriend kind of that where you were like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Or something like
Um,
that?
that was a bit of that, but it was interesting because like we actually broke up, and then I stayed in Germany for a few years before
Okay.
I ended up leaving. Um, so like I had that whole like transition experience where I like moved to a different country that I'd never planned to go to. I'd never even been to Europe before I moved to Germany. Um, and so I had that experience of like living there, like specifically for somebody else, and then being like, okay, that didn't work out. I'm gonna stay for me. I've like built up a life here, and then having that other realization, okay, this isn't the place for me to be. I need to leave.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so like those were kind of some of the inflection points along the
But
way.
that is the what was that? Like when you were like, this isn't the place for me. What is the place for you? Right.
Well, the main thing with that is I was done with immigration. Like,
Mm.
I did not want to do immigration anymore. All respect and power for anyone that's ever done it. Anyone that's done it knows it's just awful. Like, your life has to be compiled into a series of paperwork on a yearly basis. At least that was my experience. It gives you zero opportunity to plan for the future. Because you're just on a 13-month cycle, and as soon as your visa expires, like you can't leave the country, and there's always like a 3 month waiting. Like it's not like you can just get an appointment.
You
You
didn't
know,
feel
it's like
home. Like that's the thing. Like
exactly.
it feels like the story is like the return to home, right?
Yeah,
Like so
yeah.
far it's been like, where is home? And then home turned out to be home. Where you felt home is Texas, I guess,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
and do you feel that now? Do you feel like you're in a place of like you're in a place of power where you're like, wait a minute, everything's working for me here. I don't have to answer to some stupid immigration, sharing my life, my intimate personal life with my whatever girlfriend at the time, or my business or whatever. I can move freely here. This is more definition of freedom for me. Is being is that kind of what it's saying?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And also like I mean there was just to like the contrast between like Germany and the old world and all the issues they have going on in Germany, like versus Texas, like that really makes me feel at home. Like Texas is very much a place of like the future's going to be bright. We're
Mm.
growing. Um, Everyone's life is getting better. And in Germany, it's very much the opposite. Like Germany's getting poorer every single year as a country. They have so many issues from not having a big enough workforce to energy costs. Um, like for example, the electricity price is increased 7 times
Mm.
since I've left. So if you were paying
Wow.
$50, it's $350
Oh
now.
Jesus.
And so there's all these just crazy factors where it was just like, all right, like life is really hard here. It was a huge part of it, man, was like, what the fuck am I doing? Am I trying to design my life to be as difficult as possible?
Hmm.
Um, and so you're exactly right. Like coming back to Texas and being here, so many more things feel like they're just like falling into place, and so much less effort than they would be if I was trying to do the same things or even something different in another place.
I love it. And then do you feel like you're part of like a bigger story, or like what is the trajectory? What is the dream for
Yeah, absolutely. Like coming back, like I didn't, when I was gone for 7 years, I saw like my sister twice. I saw like my parents like once, because I only came back to Texas like once during 7 years. And so like I felt very disconnected and stuff from like, my actual like biological family and stuff. So like having them being a part of my life again, even though, we live in different areas of Texas, still being able to actually talk to them on the phone or see them in person, several times a year versus like once every several
yeah, or you can
years.
drive up whenever you want. Yeah.
Exactly. And like I have two nieces, like one who just graduated high school, and one who's going to be a senior, and like actually being a part of their life. Like they text me all the time and ask me all sorts of questions. What should I study? What should I do? And like, you know, actually being a part of that, it it makes a big difference.
Amazing. That's so cool, and that's where you come back to the original peak impact. You kind of you want that. You want like that family. You want to be connected. Cousins and all of that. And,
Hmm.
that's kind of you know. So that's the dream. Is like I have a factory. I'm contributing citizen to the economy and family life and all of that. That's beautiful. All right. Okay, what are your superpowers if you're gonna think about super?
Superpower wise, I would say my ability to learn
Okay.
um, is definitely my superpower. Like, I'd never learned another language until I was 24. I speak three languages now. I didn't learn programming until I was like 26. That's when at 27 when I first started learning. Like, I studied marketing, and that's what I graduated my degree with. But I did engineering, oil and gas engineering, for 3 years after I graduated. So, like, my whole life has just very much been about learning. I was homeschooled as a kid until like sixth grade. Um, and yeah, like, that is definitely my superpower. And because I feel like the ability to learn, like, you just have to realize that you're retarded. Like,
Yeah.
that's a huge part of it. Like, you have to remove your ego, like, completely, especially in learning languages or programming. Think anything that's really difficult. What the domain is unimportant, but
100%.
anything that's really difficult, you have to realize you don't know anything. Everyone around you knows more, and the only way you learn is to let them correct you. Um, whether that's the machine because your code doesn't compile, or you're speaking in Spanish and people are just correcting your pronunciation. Like, whatever it is, you just have to remove yourself and be like, okay, I'm just learning. I'm just learning.
Love it. All right. Moving into dust. I like this change from dust filter to dust. I think it's way cooler. So moving into this, you know, your business, right? Who are you serving?
Mm-hmm. So there's two different business lines. So there's like the B2B side, which is selling to smoke shops, smelling to dispensaries, gas stations. The amount of retail locations that sell smoking paraphernalia, like in the United States, is something like 80,000
Mm.
different locations. So the locations are just endless. And so that's like on the B2B side. And then the B2C side, direct to consumer, exactly what we had talked about earlier. That's very much at this point like smoking connoisseurs, people that are looking for quality, people that are looking for something different, um, and that's like kind of where we're segmented at the moment.
And out of like, I know it's early to kind of judge any of this, but what is like from the B2B side, what is the most successful of the three? Like gas stations, dispensaries, smoke shops.
Dispensaries are like the most successful so far. Um, so
Yeah.
we're in three different states at the moment. Hopefully, we'll be in Arkansas in a couple of weeks, but we're in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. Um, and some of those I've been able to close after like one visit, um, versus a lot of smoke shops. I'm averaging more than 10 in-person visits before I close. Um,
Would
re-
you think it's better to just focus on dispensaries and just
it is, but at least like at the moment, there's only a certain number of them. So like in this industry, people do not pick up the phone, like they just won't pick up the phone, and they don't respond to email. Um, like retail is very finicky. Like, I'm no expert in retail. This is the first business I've ever had like selling physical products into retail locations. Um, but there's so many human elements to it. So you have to like learn the actual retail staff that's working there, that's working the counters, because they are your salespeople. If they don't
mm,
know your product, even if you like, let's say, bypass them completely, and you make it, the first time you go in, you meet the owner or the purchasing manager. Okay, great. Maybe you even convince them and they buy. but it's just going to sit on the shelf because they're not going to train the staff, and the staff isn't going to know the product. So like the most successful retail locations I have, I've been there 10 times. I know every
Mhm.
single person by name that works at the counter. I know the purchasing manager by name. I know the manager by name, and I've met the owner.
You know,
Um,
I have the perfect book for you, book recommendation.
mhm.
It's the Ben and Jerry's guy, his story. Have you heard of Ben Cohen? Uh,
Ben Cohen. Uh-uh.
he's the Ben and Jerry's guy, and
Mm-hmm.
his story is very much like yours, where he wants to build an ice cream factory basically,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was also doing the thing. He packed all the ice cream and went door to door to these shops, selling ice creams to the retailers and all of that. So like, I feel like that is in your future after you read the book because it'll give you a lot of inspiration there. But so I like it. You know, like you're like, hey, dispensaries mostly. I think because they appreciate the product. They're like, we know what this does. Whereas a smoke shop, they're selling tobacco, they're selling shisha, they're selling whatever. They're like, all right, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And gas stations, I think, just game over. Don't even think about
But it's
it.
kind of crazy because, like, at least in Texas, like on the legality side of things, like
Yeah.
the lines have all been blurred. So,
Mhm.
like, the line between like what a smoke shop is, what a dispensary is, and even a gas station, are like they're they all sell similar stuff now. Um,
Is there a boom? You can hit something and get like 50 shops at a time, 100 shops at a time, 200 shops at a time. Like,
like I'm in the process with like there's this one called Planet K, for example. Like they own 27 different locations. I don't know how many times I've been into Planet K, but it takes a while to sell through those layers. Like these sales
mm,
cycles take a long time. Like
for sure.
there's a very like long term play I'm working on. Like I don't know if you ever heard of HEB, but they're like the biggest grocery store chain in Texas. And like one of my buddies from college, their family owns HEB. So I have like a really good end with them. But even selling into them, that whole process is like a year.
But then also, you know, I want to ladder it up
Mm-hmm.
for a reason, right? Mine is the D2C side because D2C side they're already kind of qualified if they're on your website, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's focus on the B2B side. You got gas stations at the bottom,
Right.
and I'll tell you why they're at the bottom after we do this. All right, you got gas stations, and then you got smoke shops, and then you got dispensaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And dispensaries at the top. Basically, there's a education problem the more you go down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like at a
Mm-hmm.
gas station to educate people that this is a better filter than you know, zigzagging a roach and putting it in, you know, is going to take way more than the smoke shop. And with the dispensary, it's kind of like filter doesn't take, you know, the smoke experience away, just takes it out of your lungs. Boom, you know, they're like, so doesn't
Mm-hmm.
even need an education thing. That's why when you're thinking about these sales cycles, right? Unless you start advertising, right? Like on YouTube or whatever, and you do a large awareness campaign. Until then, uh, I think in marketing they call it a bowling pin strategy,
Mm-hmm.
where you want to direct your marketing efforts in a concentrated market because what is a market? A market is not just like a customer or somebody who's willing to buy. A market, they're self-referencing,
Mm-hmm.
a self-referencing group. So if you go to like a whatever the smoke Olympics or whatever it's called, you know, like in Amsterdam or whatever, and you have a booth, everybody now knows about it, and they all know
Mm-hmm.
each other, and you can kind of get into the maybe like I don't know what the largest dispensary is in America, but I know there's like 3 or 4 players that have dispensaries everywhere.
Right.
You know, and if you go to whatever convention they're at, you know, like where they're showcasing their stuff and you have a thing there or you sponsor a thing there, you get on their radar, you know, the distribution there can be massive for
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yes. So that's kind of so coming back to what I was saying is that the one pop thing has to be on your radar. That's kind of like the best case scenario is like what did you call it? Your friend's grocery chain? What is it
Oh,
called?
HEB.
HEB. Oh yeah, exactly. Or things like that. I think you should spend more time there. Definitely do the road thing after you read the book because I think right now talking to especially dispensary owners, if you can like I know all the legal states basically you do like you love traveling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you do a month in each state and you hit all the dispensary owners that are not chains.
Mm-hmm.
So you can walk in and be like, oh, that's the owner, and you talk to them, and you'd be like, hey, here's
Mm-hmm.
that will convert a lot, and it's not gonna cost you a lot because it's just gonna be like whatever Airbnbs and a rental car, you know, and the
Right.
product in the bank,
Uh-huh.
Uh, all right. So that's kind of the target market thing. It's kind of clear. Do you think there's another thing we're not looking at, like extreme cases where, like for example, uh, the medical industry, like is that a thing, or they're just gonna say it's smoke? No.
Well, that's the thing. In a lot of the medical industry side of cannabis, they kind of like stay away from all things that are smokable. Um, so they really just focus on like gummies and tinctures and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, because I have talked with like some medical people in New Mexico and also in Texas, and that's like what they've told me. Like I've been to, there's only a few in Texas, like the truly medically certified, like, you know, everything in there is like by the book. And that's what they've told me. They're like, yeah, we're not even allowed to sell smokables. We're not allowed to do this. And you have to get certain government approvals and stuff for a lot of products. So that that is also one of those cycles where it's like, I just don't, where it's like that bowling pin doesn't make sense. Like, you know,
Yeah.
that feels like bowling a 7-10 split, you know?
All right. And what about connoisseurs? Like, is there like would rappers using your product make a difference or not really?
Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah.
like I joined, are you familiar with Joey Diaz? You know that comedian?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great.
So like I joined his Patreon like I don't know, probably like 8 months ago. And like we message back and forth like once a month. And I've sent him like products and stuff. Like for 4 months he thought they were ear filters. Like he just couldn't
Yeah,
understand it.
that's funny.
And so like stuff like that will make a huge difference. It's just also one of those things that takes a really long time. Like I like a rapper would be great to do like a video or anything like that. I don't know any rappers, um, but
But is it compatible with their like smoking type? Because they like smoke uh, giant blunts. Like, have you seen rapper blunts?
exactly.
They're
And so,
insane. Like, is there a filter that can fit
so
that?
I've designed a completely new filter that I'm calling like DOS Mega at the moment. It's a 12 millimeter filter
Okay.
specifically for because a huge market will be so there's all these little brands that roll hash holes. There's like over 250 in the lower 48,
Mm.
and they roll hundreds to thousands all by hand per week. And so I've sent like 25 of them my filters, but none of them were big enough for exactly what you were saying, these big rolls. And so I will have those filters in the middle of November.
Okay.
Um, and so once I have that big size, absolutely, like for
Yeah, the
people who
Mega
roll
Man, because it's like the big
exactly,
boy, Mega
uh,
Man,
Mega Man,
Slim
exactly.
Jim, and the big boy. I love it. All right. So let's think about like pain points from the B2B side, not from the end user side. Because the end user side is kind of obvious. It's like you don't want to be a hobo. You don't, you don't want to break your
Exactly.
lungs. Like those are kind of the two biggest things. Is one is you're a connoisseur or you want to be a connoisseur, and it's like a luxury thing, right?
Hmm.
And then the other one is you love smoke, but your body just can't handle it anymore, or you want to avoid that in the future, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of understood. But in terms of the B2B side, what is the end? Right? What is the pain point? that they're experiencing that you can be like, hey, this kind of.
Like cost is a huge thing. Margins are super thin in retail. Um, Also, like distribution. So I've met with several distributors, but I do not have currently the margins to do like big distribution deals. Um, because they like so each stage in the chain is it's kind of like a chicken and the egg problem.
Mm.
Like you need distribution to sell a lot of product, but you need really good margins to be able to do the distribution.
But why are you not selling at a super premium?
Um, because they won't buy it a super premium.
What
Um,
what what is the margin right now?
so the margin, like when I sell to like direct to a smoke shop, I sell like a 40 count in a glass jar for $10. And so, for example, if I wanted to sell that same jar to a distributor, they would want to buy it for about 350.
That's nothing. And your cost on a 40 count is what?
Um, at the moment, it's like over $4.
It's $4 for a 40 count.
Yeah.
Okay. And what can you drive it down to, you think, at
Um,
scale?
its scale, I think I'll be able to get it down to like probably like $2. Um, I think that's realistic, about $2.
And is there uh improvements in materials you can make that makes the actual experience of touching it and all of that better?
Um, a bit like I'm quite happy with the bonded paper that it's wrapped in. Like it's really nice quality. It like makes it easier to roll. It has like a nice like integrity to it. In terms of like fill, I've experimented with a couple of different ones. Like one of the new orders of filters I have coming in November has like this new type of fill in it that I'm quite excited about. Um, some of the filters I've had made so far are a bit too overfilled, so they have too much carbon in them, and just have some airflow issues. So there's definitely like little things I can do in those regards to like step by step, order by order, create like the perfect filter.
Okay, and in terms of packaging, is there like because what I'm imagining is, like those little perfect sized like holes that you can stick a thing in and it opens up like a pack instead of like a glass jar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of cleaner in my imagination to not stick your hand in it like a jar, and like take it one by one, and it will look cooler. Is that something you're considering or like thinking about?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's interesting. Like people love the glass jars because they always use them for different stuff afterwards, and glass just
Yeah.
like looks nice. But also like the biggest thing I've learned so far is like, yes, I think the filters are going to sell very well in the long term. But what's really going to blow this up is once I get my order of cones in that's coming in November that has my filter tip and has the paper, and all you have to do is stuff
Mm.
it down. Um, those will be coming just like you're talking about in a push top paper package. It will be like 6 cones per pack. Um, and that is really going to blow up. Like I would be in probably 55 additional retail locations if I had these cones already. Like so many people have told me, Murph, like, we just don't have the market for it. There's not enough people that can roll. There's not enough people that would, pay this much, et cetera, et cetera. But once I get to the cones where because that's the thing, it's convenience. Like,
But it's also you got to think about pricing because it sounds like at your current pricing, it's not gonna be worth it for you in the long run. Or are they buying in that much bulk that you can kind of handle those margins?
yes. Well, and that's also the thing is so like cones are just way more expensive. So like let's say I'm selling
Like a
a
raw
40
cone, what is that? Like,
so a raw cone like a 6 pack like retail price would be like about $6. Um,
Okay.
and that's also about what I'm going to be charging, six to eight, for
You
a
need to
six
be a
pack.
premium though, because you have a premium thing in it.
True, but like on the B2B side, like, I mean, a lot of people don't. They just don't care. Like, yes,
But
there's
I think
certain
the difference between $9 and $6 is not, from consumer side, it doesn't matter.
from consumer side it doesn't matter, but from the B2B side, every penny matters. Like
I
I
know,
went.
but you can, your MSRP should be,
Mhm.
should be $9, not $6.
Right, right. Hmm.
And then you can kind of play with that margin on the other side, but you need to maximize your MSRP so that the perceived savings they're getting from a wholesale side is
Yes,
significant
yeah,
enough that you also make money on it
yes, yeah. I know
at
exactly what you mean.
distribution. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So you
Yeah.
need to play with that pricing. Like you're saying, the 40 count, you're selling it for $10,
Hmm.
and I think you can sell it for 15 or 20. And with e-commerce stuff, especially because you have the website, you can test all these prices online,
Right.
easily.
Hmm.
That when you take it to retail, it's now, you know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. So like retail wise, like I'm selling the 40 count for 20,
Okay.
and then wholesale to the smoke shops for 10. So like that
Okay. Yeah,
seems
that makes more sense.
right. So that those are the like the difference in price points there. And like for example, when I'm selling like my rolling papers online, I'm selling them for 350 a pack. And when I sell them like a case of 50 B2B, I'm selling them for $75 for 50, which comes out to $1.50 per pack. So that's the margin there.
Yeah, I want to just plant that seed, because uh a small change in margin might not seem like much, but it it's like multiplied by 5 or 10 when it comes to profit.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
you need to fight for every dollar of margin, so
Hmm.
you can profit off the back end. Uh, I'll find the example for you to show you exactly, but sometimes like it's like a change in 10% of margin is double the profit
Right.
you get off the back end. So it's that kind of thing you got to think about. All right. So we still didn't get to the pains though. Like why would I, as a dispensary, you know, I guess no, it is, yeah, because it's the end consumer. You're like, hey, here, this is a better product, and
Hmm.
right now the packaging doesn't reflect that though. I need to be honest with
Hmm.
you. Like even the product photography and the photo styling and all of that, you need to like take all that shit out.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Like, do you
Every,
agree, or like
oh
why
yeah,
why has
yeah,
it
yeah.
been this, I guess, janky? Why has it been like that so far? Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it's really janky.
yeah.
Um, like I have like a photographer scheduled for. She comes back from Paris, I think, in like a week or two, and then I will have like professional photography. Um,
And is she a stylist too, a photo
oh
stylist,
yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
product stylist and the whole thing?
She's a full stylist.
Okay.
And so she will like she'll do a photo shoot where I'll have like some lifestyle stuff, and she'll do like proper product stills, with like uh, blank background and the product's just like laying. So I'll have like the
But
proper
that
product
should be
pictures.
stylized too. Like it shouldn't just be product. Like you should lean into not just lifestyle as in people lifestyle, because when you look at product photography,
Mm-hmm.
the people are not. It's like usually hands that are well manicured or whatever. The product is still the main thing, but in terms of still photography, blank photography, it should be stylized with like beautiful bud around it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I think so. I don't know if there's a regulation issue of selling it like that, but
Um, there's not so much a regulation issue, but like there's certain things where won't have like bud in the pictures, um, because that you just run into like random issues. Like even in like posting certain pictures, like you'll just get it taken down, for example, if it has bud. Like on a
Mhm.
website, that's fine. Like I'll like being able to have exactly what you're saying. Um, nice manicured hands, the product looking beautiful, and some really nice bud there. Absolutely, I can do that for the website.
Yeah.
And I can post that kind of stuff on like X, but other platforms, no. And
Okay.
having like bud and stuff on the packaging, like obviously a no.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. All right. So, yeah, but definitely the website and all that needs to say
Oh yeah,
the most luxurious
yeah,
smoking experience deserves this product. You know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
So that's kind of the imagery that you want to be conjuring up is that luxury experience, right?
Absolutely. And
Um,
you're completely right. The imagery and everything now, it screams hobo.
yeah, it's not exactly it's not what you're saying, and definitely that needs to change. Like you need to invest money in that, even like take a loss on that to make it that juicy, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like Yellowbird. I sent you Yellowbird. Like that. If you'll have the not copying style, but copying impact, what they're doing, it'll look so professional. People are gonna be like, "This is legit." You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
Absolutely.
right. And the magic. So I have this idea of a magic trick. There's so do you know Magnific?
Uh-uh.
So it's a website or an app that upscales your photos, and you can give it a blurry photo and it'll make it perfectly, like the computer zoom, that
Uh-huh.
kind of stuff, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with AI or whatever. And on their website, when you go, it's just a slider of before or after, and
Uh-huh.
it's like a magic trick. You see it, you're like, I need that, right?
Uh-huh.
So what is that magic trick for Dennis?
Yeah, that would be, I mean, so I have an idea for like a video like that I want to shoot that would be in that vein where it's just I have two joints rolled, one with DOS filter and one with just a raw paper crutch, and then I have like white cotton
Mhm.
at the end of each, and then I have a like vacuum cleaner that's hooked up into it. So you light them and all the smoke comes down, and then you have like the two different cotton pieces that you can show. So like this is how
Hell
yellow
yeah.
it is when it's just like a raw, um, with just a raw tip, and this is like what it looks like when it's a DOS filter tip.
Hell yeah.
Um, to really show that like huge difference.
I love that. You should do it. You should do it like today. You should do the janky version of it today, and
Okay, I'll
then
do the janky version today.
iterate on it, until it looks just beautiful. And you can even have it like as a GIF or something, or like an animation.
Uh
You
huh.
know, I love it. And the supercut. I really think because I saw you posted a video of someone who was like smoking, and she's like, "What the fuck?" Like the supercut of that. That is also a good one.
Okay, hell yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anybody else doing charcoal activated filters in America?
Yeah, there's one other company that does it. They're called Lazy Susie.
Okay.
Um, they're a relatively new brand. They've
Uh-huh.
started. They started in like 2017.
Uh-huh.
They're doing like I don't know, 40 million a year, 50 million a year now. Um, they've really blown up. They do a whole myriad of products. Their papers are what they're known for, and they do one style of activated carbon filters.
Okay.
They do a 7 millimeter one, but that's it. They only have one size. They only sell in glass jars. They only sell 100 count. Um, they don't know anything about filters. They actually outsource all of their filters to a German company called Purize,
Mm.
um, and they still have like half Purize branding on like their jars and stuff.
All right.
But it's crazy because so going in, so some retail stores do have this filter, and they do have Lazy Susie, but they don't move at all. Um, because it's 100 count. So
Mhm.
retail wise, most places are charging between $30 and $35.
So
And
yeah,
spe-
this is just the price tag is too high.
Exactly. And it's the count per jar. Like, think about it from a consumer perspective. Why would you ever buy 100 of something that you're not completely sold on? You just wouldn't. Like,
And anybody who's smoking 100 joints is very rare. Like
yeah.
most people who smoke joints are like smoking one in the weekend or like two. They're not smoking 100. All right. If you're gonna think of like the levels, right? You got the product, which is filter. You got the solution, which is kind of like that luxury, healthy-ish situation. What is the lifestyle you're selling?
Um, the lifestyle is just like, it's kind of an oxymoron. It's just like healthier smoking in a way. Like, and that's the thing. Like, there is, and I will never make a claim. There's nothing healthy about smoking, um, but it's just a straight up way healthier way to do it.
Do you want to
Um,
lean into that, or because I feel like this is a decision you have to make,
mm-hmm.
and how you lean is gonna affect most of your decisions. But do you want to lean into that, or the German way of leaning into it, which is like, you don't be a hobo, like because I feel
Be,
like they've
the
tested
hobo.
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I mean, like, off the, like, a gut reaction is for sure like leaning into like the don't be a hobo, like German engineering meets Southern hospitality. Um, just really like fits.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
luxury side, I think you should lean into that, like connoisseur luxury, you know, don't be in the Stone Age, don't be a hobo, like there's
that's really
ways,
good,
take
man.
care of your body. I think take care of your body is better than healthy,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is same thing, but it's leaning more into beauty than it is medicine. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the feeling you're selling, what is the feeling you're selling?
Relaxation.
Relax. Expand on that. Why are you selling relaxation?
Because, like, I mean, especially for people that roll, like, it's like a whole ritual for a lot of people. Like, there's they have to sit down, they have to get their weed, they grind it up, they have to get a paper, they pull it out, they put the tip in, they roll it up. It's like a whole experience for people. And like, normally when people are doing it, it's the end of the day, they finish work, and they're just like rolling up to kind of like check out and relax.
Mhm. And you're saying but you I say this all the time to people. You're selling weed, or you're selling the rolling experience. You're not selling dance in your
Right.
example. So
Mm-hmm.
how how does dance fit into this picture?
um like, into this picture, I would say, like, yeah, that's a really good question, actually. Like, the dust paper and filter tip, like, they are the premium part of a rolling experience. They are the premium part of a joint smoking experience. And without it, you're just missing out on the quality of it. Like, it's not like a refined answer by any way. I know what you mean. I need to like be a lot more clear about that. Like, where does
And
it?
confident in the direction. That's because
Yeah, exactly.
you're right. It is the good answer would have been like, yeah, you can have the stupid draw tray and feel like you're in the ghetto, or you can feel like this is like the elevated experience. You should have a tray too. Dust tray. Yeah,
Absolutely.
dust tray would be great. But yeah, it's like the elevated thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just relaxation. It's the way winners smoke, kind of
Mm-hmm.
direction. You want to feel like you're not a hobo, not a loser. Like you're like rolling with the best kind of situation. Um, I like. I think we're cooking with fire. They say. All right.
Cooking
So,
with
what is the quality factors that you think the customers are going to judge this?
like, even from what it already gets judged by. So, like, a huge thing is you don't get Scooby snacks in your mouth. Activated carbon is like, it's like a magical compound. It's used in so many different things. Like, It filters the air. It filters water. It filters smoke. It's just like it's used in agriculture. It's
But
just the
that's not. I don't think people are going to be thinking about that. To be completely like they can. It's like when people are like, oh, colloidal silver. Like it's like who knows? Like it's just talking points they've been sold. But actually, experience wise, the Scooby Snacks definitely. If you're
mm-hmm,
smoking some like super dank, drippy stuff, you're not gonna get any of that stuff probably.
mm-hmm.
Um, like that's like whatever the tar is it tar? It is tar, right?
Yeah, tar or resin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tar resin. Uh, yeah. Is there anything as touch wise, experience wise, unboxing, any of that? You think they're gonna judge it by, and what are they judging it by?
Yeah, like I think for sure, like people do judge packaging. That's a big thing for sure. Like, you're walking into a place, and it's like these shops are very loud, is how I would describe them. Like, so much of the packaging for all sorts of different products is like it's somewhat like kind of psychedelic. A lot of like blended colors. Like it's just like it's all kind of screaming at the customer like when they
And you
walk
want
in.
shelf appeal. You're saying they're gonna judge it by even shelf appeal.
Exactly. Like you want it to stand out in some way, and it's very difficult in those environments because all the packaging is super loud, and there's
Yeah,
so many different products. Like,
yours is
it's
definitely not. I don't think it does have shelf appeal. It's kind of like just type. It's not even.
oh yeah,
There's
yeah. hmm It's just like
Das
it's
is such a good name though, because I think about it like typographically too, because it's three letters, and
hmm
with three letters you can just blow it up, and you can fit a square too, and it can look really really cool.
oh yeah, like DOS is just the it's just what I need to kind of pivot to because it is the umbrella of there's
It's the
DOS
brand.
filter,
I think it's the
it's the
brand.
brand,
Das is the brand, and
and then everything else is like it's just a product line. DOS filters is a product line. DOS cones is a product line. DOS
Das
papers is a
Factory.
product line.
That's
DOS
good.
factory.
That's right. Yeah, no,
DOS
it's
tray.
great. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Bum, bum, bum. All right. Okay. For your customers and users,
Mhm.
what is the inciting incident? Like what needs to happen? So an inciting incident in storytelling is like Super Mario. Peach gets stolen.
Mhm.
That sends him on his quest to go rescue her. Without Peach getting stolen, there's no story. And and
Mhm.
and that moment in storytelling is called the inciting incident. So for your customer, what is that moment? What needs to happen for them to be like, all right, I need to find a better filter, or I need to use let's do all for each product line, right? But
Mhm.
now we got the filters,
Mhm.
and then we got the cones, and then we got the papers. The
Mhm.
joint roller is that gonna be old news once the
Um,
cones come in?
like I will keep the joint roller because it's a great gimmick product.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is like for example, my brother has smoked weed for I don't know how many years. Let's call it 7, and he won't learn to roll. He just won't. And so there's certain people that will use the roller like as like, oh my gosh, I really like it. I can't roll joints without it. Um, and so it's a nice thing. Also, just to like, I don't view it as like a money making product, if that makes sense.
It's like a
Like
gift.
exactly,
It's branded,
exactly.
it stays in a place. Okay, it has okay. So
And the
it's like
main
more of
reason
like a living room advertisement is what you want to look at.
exactly, and also a huge part of it is because I was running into people and they'd be like, I don't know how to roll. I just buy like pre rolls or cones or something, and I just didn't want that to ever be like another reason they couldn't try the product. So that's why I got the rollers and stuff. Like, oh, well, like I've got a roller for you, dude. Like, no excuses. You know what I mean? You can still
Right.
try it.
All right. So what is the inciting incident for the filter?
For the filter inciting incident, I would say is probably people would try. a glass tip first or a wooden tip. Anything else that's like that's not raw. I think that is the inciting incident because then it gets them on the journey of there are other tips out there.
Why
I don't
would they do that? Why are they starting to look for alternatives? What
normally because they would buy something that is prepackaged. So like all these stores, like whether it is a dispensary, whether it's a smoke shop, whatever, 30% of their sales is a pre-finished product, which is a joint that already is filled. And so that is like 30%.
ah
So that is 30% of their sales. And like I that is like in multiple
can't you
different.
get your filters in those pre-roll joints?
Yes, exactly. And that's what the cones. So like
No, no, not cones. Like, can't you go to the dispensary and because they sell pre-rolls, can't you be the
they
pre?
use cones.
Oh, they use cones to fill them up, and okay,
Yes. So cones is like the industry standard. Like if anytime you would, and there's hundreds of these brands that sell like whatever different like joints. They're XY company and they sell this joint. Maybe it's infused or whatever. But everyone uses cones. Like no one, everyone's going to use a cone for any of those type of
but
products.
didn't you say there was like the rolling machine? You just
So there
because
is a rolling machine, but even
that's
they're not going to
cones.
use. Those still will use a cone. Like
The
they
machine
wouldn't
you
use.
load it up with cones and it
You
fills
load.
up cones.
Yep.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so
So
cones is
even
like
like
the hack.
cones is the hack exactly. And so like even if you have a the $250,000 joint rolling machine, you're loading that machine with cones.
Okay, and all right, so that's kind of the onboarding thing is that they they have a pre-roll and then they're like, wow, this is a nice filter. I need me some filter
Exactly.
upgrade. And then you come in with like, hey, you don't want to use a glass or wooden filter because that does absolutely fuck nothing.
Exactly.
We have an extra
Exactly.
benefit. And
Ex-
what's special about your papers? Is there anything special about the paper?
yeah, for sure. So I use like it's called like natural acacia gum. So I've tried every type of paper there really is in the world, and this is like my absolute favorite. It just burns really really clean. It has a really nice like translucent like color. It's super thin, and if you do like burn tests with it, it leaves like a minimal part of ash.
Mhm.
And so that's like the main thing is like it's just really quality. Um,
Yeah, it's just, but it's not nothing special about it. There's a Casey gum paper.
there's only one other one, acacia gum, and it's OCB. So they're the only other ones that do acacia gum. So like the industry is moving in a way where everyone is becoming obsessed with these hash holes.
What is a hash
Um,
hole?
so a hash hole is it's all rolled by hand. There's okay, a few companies do it machine wise, but it's 2 grams of flour and like zero point 0.5 or 0.25 grams of concentrate.
Okay.
Um, it's rolled up. It's super big and fat, and people normally use glass tips for them. And that is really becoming popular, and people swear by them that it's like gives a better flavor profile because it's this much weed and all this different stuff. But people love them, and they're really blowing
Maybe
up.
it's
And
like
when
a party gimmick or something like that.
well, that's the crazy thing, brother. It's not even a party gimmick. Like, there's people that only smoke hash holes. And like when I was telling you earlier about there's like these 250 small brands throughout the U.S. that do this. All they roll is hash holes. That's all they roll, and that's all they sell. Um, and people just really like them. Like, I think part of it also is because like the smoking experience, it feels kind of like a cigar to them because
Mm.
it is like big and fat. I think that is a huge thing for it. When it burns like in a donut shape. So like the ash ring around it is circular and like the middle is like hollow, and so it burns down like a donut. And people really
Interesting.
like that for some reason. Um, and
All
so
right.
that's also kind of like a big thing with it.
Okay. All right. Let me keep going here. All right. If you had like a board of advisors, and they
Mm-hmm.
can be filled with fictional characters if you want, not, dead people. Whatever you want. Who would that board of advisor be, and why would you have those?
That's a really interesting question. Like board of advisors wise, one person I would want would be like Cheech and Chong. Um, I think that would be amazing. Like, because their story is interesting. Like, they were the first people to like really do glass back in the day, and they like had to serve prison time for selling glass. Um, so it would be just really interesting someone that had been around like that long, get their perspective, ask them questions. They're huge weed connoisseurs, all that kind of stuff. Um, Someone else that I would love to have like on the board of advisors, like Steve Jobs, classic. There's nothing sexy or cool about that, but he understood design so well. He understood topography so well. Like I would love, to be able to just like chop it up with him. Be like, all right, dude. I know it looks like really hobo and janky here. So did the first Apple computer. Like, how do we fucking get this rolling, dude? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, so I'd love to have those two. And then also like even like a modern person like levels, like I think having someone like that, someone who's been able to build so many different businesses, is just one person, like
yeah.
to be able to have like that juxtaposition, because like my dream of like having a factory, like that's not a one person shop, but I think like having some input from someone that's like, how do you always keep it lean, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
would be like really beneficial.
Oh. And then what is a five-star experience with your product?
um a 5-star experience is, it's just what all like my customers have been telling me, dude. Like once they roll with DOS, they don't go back. Like they just don't. Like people, once you roll with like these filters, like you don't want to smoke a joint unless it has one. And like to me, that's like literally the best compliment you can get, like as a product. Like because we're DOS is just the inputs. Like all we're ever going to be is papers, cones, and filters. Like, and being a key part of people's overall like cannabis consumption, like that's a business I feel like that can really grow. That's something that's like becomes a staple for people.
And what is a six-star experience?
Um, a 6-star experience is I've actually had that also in the past couple of weeks. Is like customers that want to become sellers. Like, how can I help you move product? Can I make videos for you? I even have people that are like going into smoke shops and pitching DOS now.
Amazing.
Um, and like that is just mind blowing to me that like
What's
people are
happening
really,
there? Why are they doing that?
I don't know, they really just like it. They
You
really
should
like it.
ask.
Yeah,
You
like,
should ask. You're like, hey, see you later.
but no, like that's what I have. They just like the
Yeah.
products that much. It's like almost crazy to
But
even
what do they like
believe.
about it? Like you gotta be specific. Like, hey, what exactly? What results is it delivering that you're this excited about it? Because I want to know as the owner.
What, at least some things they have told me, it's like they've never had a better joint, like
Mm.
using the papers and the filters, because like the weed is always, that's completely out of my control, but like the stuff they can control, like the papers and tips, at least that's what they've been telling me, like they've never found anything that's better. Like it is the best product, the best tip they've ever used, and the best paper they've ever used.
Amazing. And what's a seven-star experience?
A 7-star experience would be like, can I invest?
Yeah.
Yeah, a customer turned investor would be a 7-star experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep pushing until I get something. What's an eight-star experience?
um, 8-star experience. What would an 8-star experience be? I don't know, dude. If someone buys product and pays me for it and makes videos for free and posts it and goes to other stores to try to sell it, I don't think it could get any better than that. Like, I mean, no, very rarely does any business ever have
Well, think
customers
about
doing
you're
that kind of stuff.
thinking you're talking about the impact of the experience, right? What is the experience that is like wow? Describe the smoking experience the 8-star smoking experience with this imaginary style, you know?
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So like the actual experience of using it that's like 8 stars is like people don't cough. Like, you know, a huge thing when you're smoking weed is people cough and they hack up and it sounds terrible. Like literally not coughing while smoking, like that real physical response where you're like, oh my, like you know the difference, you notice it. Your body's not having the response you're used to, which is coughing your brains out, to being able to smoke a joint not coughing at all.
Imagine supervillain Murph, right?
Mm-hmm.
This character. He's 100 times faster, sharper, whatever. Like he's better than you 100 times.
Uh-huh.
Describe that supervillain.
Um, that supervillain knows the most important things to work on 100% of the time.
So
Um,
he's good at prioritizing.
he's good at prioritizing, and like, and it's even deeper than just prioritizing. It's like truly knowing what is the most important thing to work on. Like, I don't know if you've asked other founders this question, but like in my experience and also talking to other business owners, like the first several years, that is literally the daily struggle. That is the daily fight. There's 10,000 things to work on. That's never going to change. What are literally the most important things you need to work on? And yes, that might shift day to day, that might shift hour to hour, but just like that constant feedback loop and adjusting. What's the most important things to be working on? What's the most important things to be working on? Like for example, like the website, it still looks janky. Um, it's still getting sales. So what is the most important thing to work on? Is it improving the website that's converting and getting sales? Or is it to keep DMing people? Is it to keep like messaging people?
Mm.
It's not to work on the website. It's to keep messaging people. And it took me forever to like really realize that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but this is one of the big things that I face a lot with people is that marginal improvements to the website is not going to make a big difference.
right.
Like you changing, a little bit of copy here, a little bit of whatever here there, like that's not going to make a huge impact on conversions. You know, I'm trying to push you into rebranding entirely, and that huge change is going to create a big difference for you.
Right.
But yeah, changing a little bit of photography, changing a little bit of that, it's not going to, it'll improve maybe a little bit, but not significant enough that you're going to find that. So this guy, he knows what to do, right? He knows every move exactly what he needs to be doing all the time to create maximum value, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you need to focus on in the next 10 years to be like better than this guy in 10 years?
Um, I think like listening to the customers is part of that. Like they know, like they know everything. Like they are always right in a quirky sense. Like serving your customers like as best as you can. Um, Also, just like it's really easy, especially I would say for myself, like to get caught up in the bright and shiny. Like what I sometimes I just make the wrong decisions. Like I'm completely wrong about what I think like the most important thing to work on is. Because like exactly what you were saying about the marginal improvement thing on a website. I mean, brother, I've done that several times. Like, and it's so dumb. Like, you can easily spend half a day taking pictures, editing them, putting them on the website for them literally to be 3% better. You know what I mean? Um, where you wasted like half a day, where like that half a day, I could have gone to 5 shops in person. I could have sent 50 DMs. I could have made the janky like comparison video, which
Mm-hmm.
even though it's janky, that would actually work. You know what I mean? Like, um, so it's just like to get to that point in 10 years, like part of it also I think is like honesty, like being truly honest with yourself, like because I think it's also can be easy to convince ourselves that like sometimes we had a really productive day, or we
Mm-hmm.
did this task list, or um, we got all these things done, but were any of those the actual important things you were supposed to work on that day? And sometimes you just have to like be more honest with yourself, be like, no, idiot, that what
Yeah.
none of those things were important.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding kind of what are you trying to drive results in, and if you make zero progress there, you need to be like, damn, just wasted a day. Right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Have you seen the old Spartacus movie?
The old Spartacus movie. The one from like the 50s?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Yeah. So you know the scene where it's I am Spartacus,
Uh-huh.
and that's like Spartacus, he stands for like freedom,
Mm-hmm.
and people were willing to take the hit
Mm-hmm.
because of that value, right? And standing for that. What is that for you? Like, what would someone be like, I'm Murph, right?
um, yeah, to me that would just be like, I am Murph and I am helpful.
Oh, it's service.
Yeah, service. Like I am Murph and I am helpful. Um, and like, as you know, like I mean, you crush this on like everything you're doing, like
Thank
with social media and all that stuff. Like, I would say that is like your brand 101 is like being helpful.
you.
Um,
Amazing.
and yeah, I think that would be a crazy great Spartacus moment. Like I am Murph and I am helpful.
Amazing. I love it. And if you're gonna describe the most genius artist,
hmm Um, like I have a favorite artist. So he's was a German illustrator from the 18 and early 1900s, called Heinrich Kley,
okay,
and so all of his artwork is the inspiration for Disney. So Walt Disney
just
looked at him, and all of his drawings, and that is how he had the idea for animated um, animal characters to be very human. And so Heinrich Kley crushed it at this. His like understanding of anatomy of so many different animals and humans is just was just absolutely insane. I loved his drawing style. It's very like kind of messy and flowy. Like he has so many amazing sketches that are one line. You literally put the pen down and you
mhm.
don't lift the pen, and everything is a continuous motion. And like that step by step of his brain is just, I don't know. I find it so
I'm
fascinating.
getting excited to research him after. But what do you love about like what is the genius? If you're gonna say this is what makes him genius, what would that?
Um, like also his career as an artist, I find like to be pure genius. So the way he made his money was doing industrial drawings for like factories in Germany. And so he would do like oil and paint drawings. He would do like these big commissions, so he could actually earn a living and do like his sketch work that he really loved. Um, and so like because I've also had like an artistic career and tried a bit of that stuff, and that's also one of those things where you really struggle, like what is the most important thing to be working on. And like an artist like that I find to be a true genius, because it's like he realized, okay, art's great, but like I've got to make money.
Mm,
So let me do my industrial artwork, um, to then also be able to do like his true art as well.
I love it. And what is the most genius duo if you're gonna duo artist?
Ooh, greatest duo together. Um, this is
Yeah.
kind of a random one, um, but I think what's it, Quentin Tarantino
Uh-huh.
and like the woman from Kill Bill. Like I think
Okay.
that like that artist combination like
Uh,
was just absolutely incredible. Like I think
uh,
those films are so weird, and like they're not even my favorite films, but people that are like Kill Bill fans, like I've never met a more fanatic like fan in any way. And I feel like it was just because of that combo, like this perfect director actor mixed together.
yeah, like Tarantino and Uma Thurman. That's hilarious. I love that. But it's because like, can you keep describing like what do you see is the genius in their collaboration?
Because like directors and actors is like it's a very weird relationship. Like The director is trying to tease greatness out of the actor, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Like, you can't just tell someone like do this. Like that doesn't work. You can't. There's no like perfect sentences or vocabulary that you're ever going to be used. You just kind of have to like pull it out of them. Um, and sometimes I think directors do that very well by like getting out of the actor's way. Sometimes it's what they say. Also, sometimes it's how they say it, or even more, what they don't say. Um, so I think it's that like perfect myriad of creation that kind of comes together.
I love it. And if you had the logo of Das, right? Boom,
Mm-hmm.
on a hat. Why would anyone want to wear that hat? Like, what would it represent?
Um, it would just like represent the brand. Like anyone that's going to be wearing like DOS merch, it's because like they've used DOS paper or DOS cones or DOS filters. Um,
I
and
know,
so it's
but
just,
using something doesn't really look like I'm wearing Fairly hat, with whatever Wyoming Jackson Hole on it. It's not because it's like it just because you use something like I use whatever Apple. I'm not wearing Apple notes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
What like why people wear merch, or at least like why I wear merch, is literally like I don't overthink it at all. It's just like, man, that's cool. And so
But yeah,
what
what
is
makes
what makes it cool is
what
like
makes it
this
cool?
is a sense of taste. And taste is 100% individualized. Like everyone has a different taste. There's trends, there's like what's in vogue, what's in fashion, but
But
the
what is your
taste
taste? What is someone who has good taste that chooses dance? What does their taste reflect, or what does their taste say
like
about them?
um that they enjoy quality, that they enjoy things that are really well thought through. Um,
Okay,
that
we're getting closer in the right direction, but we're still not there. Yeah.
like because it's interesting, like because there is a huge disconnect from like I don't know, like a rolling paper and a tip and like a hat and a t-shirt. Um, like why do people wear like for me for personal like I don't like logos. Like I don't wear stuff that has logos for the most part. Like t-shirt wise, I don't wear anything that has a logo. Like
Me
I
too.
like
I'm the same way. Like I hate logos,
yeah. And so
but
like
I would wear like a Johnny Cupcakes, Fat Boy on it,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and but
exactly.
but that is a clear signal that this is Johnny Cupcakes.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So it's not a logo, but it's still like I wear Mickey Mouse stuff all the time, like
Oh yeah.
Disney stuff,
Mhm.
and that does say that you know I do like wholesome values. I have a little kid in me. Like it says all of
Mhm.
these things,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So with us, like think about like the idea I keep pushing on. If each one of those tips, had a character, right?
Mhm.
What would
Mhm.
it say? Like if I were like a Mega Man, Das character merch thing, right? What
Uh-huh.
does that say about me?
Um
Is I like fat blunts, but but right? But but you got to think about like that. You got to lean into the comedy of and the lore of what you're building,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so what is that lore? Like if we're gonna start building that up, like what is it? What is that?
Yeah, the lore of DOS. Like I don't know. Like I really don't have a good answer
I
for
think
that.
you should sit and think about all those lines, and you have names for them, right? Like the Fat
Yeah.
Boy, Mega Man, Slim Jim, all of these. Think about each one and what it says about the person who chooses that as their go-to filter, right?
Right.
And
Well, and
then
well, like I mean, this is how I kind of think about it. Is like so like I have all the different names because they're different size filters. And a different size filter means you roll a different size joint. And if you roll a different size joint, you're like kind of a different person. Like someone who rolls a super skinny small joint with a Slim Jim is literally such a different person that than would roll with like the big boy, or
Mhm.
that would roll with like the DOS Mega that's coming.
Yeah.
Like exactly what we were talking about. Why would you roll 2.5 grams?
You want to take the sun out of the camera lens? There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Why
Um,
would can you and you seem like a creative dude too, so like I want to see that story come out, like even like as comics, to be completely honest with you, with like like a little, the sticker has a little comic in it, every time you buy like a thing, and
uh-huh.
each there's like editions and collectibles and all of that. Like I feel like all of that is open for docs.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea, dude. I've
Yeah.
never thought about that before. But like having a little tiny foldable, unfoldable comic with each
Uh-huh.
one would
Yeah.
actually be like really cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that actually is a really good idea. But like that's like in terms of like the different sizes, the different names, and what that says about the person that would use them. Um, yeah, I do just need to go deeper on that because that will tell me a whole lot. Like people that are going to buy Slim Jims are probably never going to buy like Das Mega.
Mm.
People that buy like the Midways, they're probably just going to always buy the Midways because
Mhm.
it's a different type of joint you would roll, which means you're kind of like a different kind of person. Like maybe you smoke alone, maybe you smoke with other people. Um, you're right. There is like a whole lot there that I just haven't really thought about.
Mhm. And then if you're gonna think about like Batman, right? The bat signal, there's crime, you know. So Batman shows up. What is like the bat signal first for your brand, and what is the bat signal for you, Murph, as a guy?
Um, the bat signal for like the brand is just like no more raw. Um, like, and because I've realized that in going to like one of the conferences I've been to, and like um, other people I've talked to, like when someone is big and on top and making all the money, there's like an underground insurgence that like kind of
Mhm.
starts where like you don't want the big guy anymore. You don't want the one that everyone else has. And like unfortunate for them and lucky for me because they are so big. Um, so many people like make fake raw, and like that's a huge issue that they have, and so that really brings down their like overall brand perception, because there's a lot of people selling shitty raw products that aren't raw, um, and so people have that and they get a bad association with them. um, but for the brand, I would say that is like at the moment the bat signal, no more raw.
So it's like you're like the alternative mainstream. Like
Exactly.
whatever is not mainstream, that's is showing up in
Yeah.
parents. And what about you as a founder?
um like for me, like I want to stay like is approachable and in contact with customers for forever. Like I will never have someone run a social media account that is DOS. No one will ever touch it. It will
Uh,
100% be me. I want to always be reachable to the customers. I
but
don't
why do you
care.
have two social media things? Like, why don't you like kind of fuse those characters together?
Well, I don't like the founder account I have, like that one. I don't ever touch it.
Okay.
It just sits there. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
active on it. I just do the DOS filter account. Um, that one is just like just sits there.
But why don't you change that to Murph in the name and have the handle be Das Filter, and then have like founder Das Filter, and like make it very Das Filter branded, but still human.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I should do that. Um, I definitely should do that.
Yeah.
But like, it's also like one of those things where it's just like running multiple social media accounts is just like it just doesn't. It's just too much.
Don't do it, bro. I'd like to be completely honest with you. Don't
Yeah,
run multiple social media.
exactly. That's why I just like focus on the DOS filter account. Like
Yeah.
trying to have multiple social media accounts, I think just doesn't make any sense, especially not at
Yeah.
this stage.
Yeah. What's your next three steps, do you think?
Next three steps is like continue to grow the B2B side, um, get to keep growing the B2C side, and ho- survive until the new products come, basically. Um,
But
like,
how are you going to do that? What are you actively doing to do that? Like for the B2B, what is you've been talking to stores and whatever? Like, is there like something coming up? Like, do you have any plans to grow
oh yeah,
that
for sure.
B2B side?
So like I've done some like epic road trips from like Texas, like all throughout Texas and into New Mexico and up into Colorado. I've got another big road trip I will do in November once I have the new products in, but it's mostly just like maintaining and continuing to build like all these relationships that I've built. Like you just have to keep showing up. You have to keep showing up in these physical locations, and they're endless. And there's it's a process with each one.
Yeah.
There's you show up physically, you drop samples, you have to follow up. I mean, the amount of times that like I've had to go back into a place to see that my jar is sitting exactly where they had left it like a week ago, and they had just forgotten about it. And that's a huge part of it. Like you have to constantly be doing that.
Right.
And there's just no other way.
Yeah, the road is kind of where your near future is
Oh
supposed
yeah,
to be.
yeah.
Like,
It's literally just being a road dog.
mm.
It is just hitting up the places time and time again. Um, Continue to grow like the social media stuff and continue and and be less janky.
Yeah, be,
Um,
be less janky, definitely. But right now, the jank, like you're saying, it's converting. It's doing well. That's fine. It's just because you have like orders and print and all of that. It's smart to think about, hey, before I print, before I do that, let's do a mini rebrand so that the next phase is a little leveled up, right? And then you just keep doing that before every print cycle and production cycle. You kind of line them all up so you can boom, rebrand, elevate, boom, rebrand, elevate, boom, rebrand, elevate. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, dude. Um, those kind of like just marginal steps in a way, because like there's a few companies that like will do a decent job of showing it like on their about page, but it really is crazy to see like the overall branding evolution journey of anyone. Like it really does seem like it is nothing but small incremental improvements over years to get to like the Yellowbird status. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, even
work.
yeah, Yellowbird, this rebrand with all the animations and all of that was like last year or 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been the founder, started it with his wife. He cooks and she's a designer, so like they kind of have a
Perfect combo.
unfair advantage there with design, because
Mm-hmm.
she is a graphic designer, very professional one, very good one too. So she,
Mm-hmm.
she has fantastic taste in design. And
Right.
he's obviously you've tried the product. It's fantastic. It's delicious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they have an unfair advantage there. Like you have a little artistic thing in the back, but our art is not graphic design.
Not at all.
Not at all. This is the end of the line. I need you to take the second piece of paper
Mm-hmm.
and then same exercise as the beginning. Imagine your life, peak impact, and I want you to draw that impact. That's right, too. Hell yeah.